boy, it's only the second MCU movie to get a rotten score on Rotten Tomatoes, and I think I speak for everyone when I say, really?
I don't care who this guy is. I just lost so much.
It's a family affair as Ant-Man and Wasp join their daughter, Maggot, in fighting Mini-Thanos in Ant-Man and Wasp Quantumania. Okay, so before I go into my thoughts on this movie, I should probably go into my thoughts on the other Ant-Man movies. I really like them, though I guess I found out a lot of people don't. I didn't really read Ant-Man growing up, so I only have the movies to go off of, and I definitely saw them as lighter, but very funny, very creative. When I think of this series, I think of him getting bigger and smaller, throwing salt shakers, and that stopping somebody, skating on a vehicle down San Francisco. Like, that's really, really enjoyable and creative to me. I will admit they're not big epic stories by any means, but that's not what I'm looking for because I feel like that's not what they establish. So I have a good time with these movies. Now with this one, they are definitely trying to go bigger with the idea. And you can see the money on screen. You can see a lot of epic battles. You can see a lot of creative worlds and weird creatures. And for my money, I think I'd much rather just see him skateboard on a vehicle down San Francisco.
You've lost a lot of time. Like me, we can help each other with that.
We can start off Phase 5 eerily similar to Phase 4. I give them credit for trying to go bigger. I like when a series kind of has a certain identity to it, and then they decide to shake it up a little bit or go a little bigger and maybe a little bit more dramatic. I appreciate all that. But they don't do it that great. And I think the reason why is that they're still trying to stick to the comedy of the Ant-Man movies. And the comedy here is not that good. The writing in this is not Thor, Love, and Thunder bad. It's not something where they tell a joke and I am just groaning and saying, shut up, oh my god, stop with the humor. But it is a script that feels 20 years old. These are jokes and writing that would be fine in an early 2000s movie, but nowadays, it's very stale and very tired and very uninspired. A good example of this is when they do go to the quantum realm and Ant-Man is with his daughter saying, oh, this will be fine. This will be like when we went camping, and she says, we've never been camping. They leave a pause, and he says, well, it's like when we've always discussed going camping. That's a joke. Now, that's not god-awful, but the fact that they left a pause there, like, oh, wait till you hear this, Topper, it's not that great.
I'm the man who can give you the one thing you want.
What's that?
Time.
Wow, what are they going to do with that in the movie? They never do anything with that in the movie. I don't even think that line is in the movie. If these kind of lines were throwaway jokes or went a lot faster, that'd be one thing, but you can tell you're supposed to laugh at these scenes, and like I said, they even give pauses. This reminded me a lot of the movie Strange World, another Disney movie, where the characters and the writing just weren't that interesting. They were very bland, they were very familiar, they were very formulaic, and we've seen them in a million other movies and nothing much new was added. However, the world is pretty cool. The Quantum Realm is one of the most imaginative places I've seen on the big screen in a while. Let me tell you, I did see this in 3D, and I saw it on IMAX. It was worth it. If you are going to check this movie out, that is the way to check it out. The 3D is very good. It does take a little bit of time to get there because you see the quantum realm like a darker part of it, and 3D doesn't look as good in the dark. But when you actually do get like the brighter, more colorful stuff, it looks really grand. It looks really epic. And these creatures and everything you see in the background, it really reminded me a lot of kind of the bigger Studio Ghibli movies. And that's a huge compliment because everything in the background, I wanted to say, what is that? How does it work? What was the idea with the design in this? It was very much like Spirited Away or Howl's Moving Castle in that way. I just wanted to look at every creature on their own and just study the design of them. And the same thing with the mountains and the weird smoky backgrounds and the buildings. There's a really cool scene where the buildings start moving and they say, oh, your buildings are alive? And they're like, aren't yours? Like, that's a great idea. Some of the ideas in this are not half bad. There's a great scene where Ant-Man starts multiplying, and some of them want to run away, some of them want to head towards the goal, some of them are fighting each other, but eventually they figure out to all work together like a colony of ants. And how goddamn creative is that and smart is that? This whole hive of ant-men that are actually all thinking with one mind. That is so clever, but they don't really dive that much into it. And I feel like a lot of the ideas in this, they either abandon too early or they try to squeeze too much in between kind of the gimmicky humor. So despite having all these really big, cool visuals and these big battles at the end that are really impressive to look at, they're not really anchored by any interesting characters or that big of an ethical dilemma. It's still just a bad guy who wants to destroy stuff.
He can give us a second chance.
We can undo some She-Hulk jokes. Some of my favorite stuff is when Ant-Man gets really, really big, and in this one, once again, he does get really big, and he's walking around this city, but when he's saying lines like pointing to the villain, who, big shock, breaks his word in this, and he says, "You gave me your word, you went back on your word, that's what matters," it's pretty lame. This movie is like Thor Ragnarok if you took out all the investment and all the funny humor and replaced the bad guy with Thanos, but not from Infinity War, from Guardians of the Galaxy? Like, if you took that Thanos and stretched him out to be the villain, you'd be like, well, he's okay, I guess, but man, for all the build-up, like, from Loki that they had with this character, and honestly, I was just kind of thinking, man, what are they gonna do with this guy? I don't know much about him in the comic, but I'm really interested to see what they do with him. And after seeing what they do with him here and what I guess they're going to do with him in the future, I'm no longer interested. Which is not to say they can't turn it around. Even Thanos was really dragged out and overbuilt up, but they did deliver a good payoff. Thanos was really cool. So they can win me back, but I'm saying as of now, they're not getting me really excited with what they're going to do with this character.
You will bring me what I need, or everything you call a life will end.
Have you seen how Disney's doing recently? It looks like that's already beginning. If you're a MODOK fan, by the way, I can't wait to see what you think of this. Without going into details, they definitely take liberties and change quite a bit, but how do I put it? If you thought the Uncanny Valley with Megan was uncomfortably campy, this is like that mixed with George Lopez from Shark Boy and Lava Girl. I can't wait to see everyone just kind of be uncomfortable in their seats looking at this thing. But the actors are still charming and they're giving it their best. The one scene I remember legit getting pretty invested is when the family actually does come together to fight the bad guy. It's not even that long in it, but it kind of reminded me a little bit of The Incredibles. Like, I like this idea, the family coming together and kicking some ass. It's just cool. But like, there's another scene where Michael Douglas shows up, and in just a couple sentences, he gives like the life story of these ants and how they came to build this whole civilization. Like, this is something that could totally be its own movie, and it's summed up in just a few sentences, and it's gonna play a big part later. I remember thinking to myself, this is really stupid. And not the kind of stupid I'm looking for, like shrinking down an entire building and carrying it like luggage, yet the inside of it is completely fine, like fun stupid. It's just stupid. So I really wanted to be on board with this movie and all the big action sequences and all the cool creatures that you see in the background and the foreground and everything, but if you don't have interesting characters or that much of a focus to anchor it down, it's just gonna be spectacle and no heart. When the big scene happens where one of the characters has to talk to the entire quantum realm and say, fight for your freedom, I remember thinking to myself, I've spent time looking at it, but not really getting to know anybody, so I didn't really care if they rose up or they fought or whatever. I didn't even really care that much about what happens to the main characters, and these are characters I've had several movies to get to know and enjoy, but if they're just not saying lines or doing stuff that's gonna really push or challenge them in any new way, I'm just not gonna be that interested. So I'm giving it 2.5 out of 4 Uncanny Valley Ant Woody Allens. The world and some of the ideas are really cool, I just don't think it's a strong enough script. With that said, what did you think? Did you think this movie was big and epic, and you like that Ant-Man is finally feeling like a big, strong, cool superhero instead of just some funny punchlines? Or did you feel like it really missed the mark and it should have stuck to the more funny stuff and really focused more on getting the writing down and the heart of the characters? Or are you somewhere in between where you say, you know what, the world was cool and the action was cool, I'm satisfied enough? Let me know what you think and I'll see you next time. Take care.